Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Creative Contact. I'm your host, Kia Orion. Thank you so much for tuning in. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me in my back room, and I appreciate that. If you notice the boys popping out, I'm not popping out nothing. I was gonna say I'm popping my collar, but I'm not. I'm just in a collared shirt. It's because laundry day. This is Sunday. My little Colombian wifey, she's on like a little retreat with her friend. They're like brainstorming on some business shit. So your boy is rocking solo at the crib and it's laundry day, and I didn't want to come on here topless. You know what I mean? I was like, man, maybe I should just to reminisce on the old Chiang Mai days, but I'm not gonna. I'm not in quite the shape that I used to be, so I'm not gonna subject you to that. But it did cross my mind. It crossed my mind at one point. I was like, man, I should pop on just like Chiang Mai energy, come out here topless. But 35-year-old version of Kia is different than 26-year-old version of Kia. 26-year-old here, I had the beard. I was out here. I was topless. I was letting my shit off. I had my Zante hat, which I think I found on like the street in Philly. I was a wild boy. We were just going after it, but. It's nice. I'm domesticated now. I'm in this little kind of home studio that I'm building out with Lena. We've got this little back room, and at first it was going to be my bedroom, but then I was like, oh, you know what? Let me like made this into a little studio. So you can't see it right now, but you're actually what I'm shooting through. Hopefully you can't tell, otherwise I'm doing a good job. But there's a big ass teleprompter that the glass is actually shooting through a teleprompter here, and then I have a huge tripod. You can't see, but right underneath you is actually like a little tablet to like reflect the scripts back. And yeah, we've got like this light up here. You can probably see that's Lena's, and then we've got some plants over here. We're trying to like figure out how to make this more of like an interesting studio setup. But I think for me, Lena is like much more. I think it's like a testament to our differences, where like she's very free flowing. She'll like shoot up in a corner. It looks really cool. She'll change her outfits. I'm like, I want to have everything dialed perfectly in on a script and read it off a script and look directly at the camera, and I know what I'm wearing. Like, it's just. I think it's like there are a couple things that I think like very accurately portray our differences in how we approach life, but opposites attract, hopefully. So just to give you a little breakdown of what I want to talk about today is basically three things. Like the last one is kind of just like an afterthought, but the first one is your boy. If you saw the little thumbnail, I'm officially Colombian, at least until the end of the year, which is pretty exciting. I finally got my cédula de extranjería, which is basically like I'm official as a whistle. I told Lena I was like so excited the day I got it. It was like if you've been through like any Latin American visa applications, you know like how much of a nightmare it is. I got rejected for this. Not rejected, but like they sent the application back like probably 10 times, and that's not an exaggeration. The first time it took us so long to go through it that like I would submit it and they'd send back questions, and then basically what they needed was, because I am also a New Zealand citizen, subtle flex, but okay. They're like, okay, we need a background check from New Zealand, apostilled from New Zealand, and the only way to actually request those is through mail. So I had to send 3 pieces of paper through DHL from Medellin to Wellington in New Zealand, and it cost $100 to send like 3 pieces of paper. And it finally got there, and then they apostilled it. If you don't know what apostille is, it's kind of just like certifying it. And then they, fortunately, shout out to New Zealand, they do an e-apostille thing. So they just emailed me. By the time I got the email back from the like New Zealand government apostille people, the application had expired. So like I had to redo the application. I had to pay the money again to do it. So what I'm saying is hire a lawyer, people. But yeah, I finally navigated it and through all the rigmarole. And by the time I was submitting it again, my bank account, like everything I'd submitted the first time didn't count, because they were like, no, these bank records they need the most up-to-date records. So they were really trying to keep me out the country, but I made it. I wiggled my way back into Colombia. You aren't keeping me out. I love it too much. So I'm grateful that I finally got that shit. And I have like a bank account. I'm slowly, much to Lena's dismay, I'm slowly becoming more Colombian. I can finally dance now. I'm kidding. I can't. I'm taking lessons though soon. That's a promise. But officially Colombian. And like I said, this is just like a baby step, because this expires. They're really stingy with it. This is a nomad. I have a nomad visa, but they say up to 2 years, and they gave me 9 months. So they didn't even give me a year. They're like, nah, bro, you go to the end of the next year and then you got to apply again. So, I'm trying not to be too bitter about it. So it goes. Anyways, that is actually a nice segue into my next point. Wasn't even meaning to do that, but I'm hoping to someday soon, be officially Colombian as a resident through marriage. That at least is the plan. Unfortunately, Lena and I, we have been working through some differences. And I recently, I was like, man, I've obviously heard a lot about couples counseling, couples therapy. And I was like, you know what, this could be, I had pitched it to Lena before, but we never thought we'd really needed it. And you know, we're like, oh, all couples fight, etc. And then maybe a week ago, we had like a big episode, as we'll call it. And it was really hard. It's been like a really tough last week. And there was one day where to be honest, I thought Lena had broken up with me. I thought she was kind of like breaking up with me, and, you know, about a lot of reasons I won't get into here I want to keep it somewhat private, but this is something I do want to talk to y'all about. But, we were like, you know what, let's give it another shot, and let's try couples therapy, couples counseling. But throughout the week in my mind, I was like, there's probably somebody better for her, because all couples have kind of this tension they come back to. And a big one for us is that I'm so rigid, and that she isn't, she's flexible, she's Latina, she wants to be social, and just like, I'm such a focused fucking introverted dude that like, I'm just like, it's like the goal. I'm like the Terminator. I'm like the goal and nothing else. Not exactly, but like kind of. And so that has been a big, friction point for us, is that she's like, yeah, I want to have my life separate. I want to have my life like with you, I want to like bring you along these things, but I'm like, I'm good on friends. Like, I'm not trying to like, I'm not in that phase. Like, speaking to Chiang Mai, when I first got Chiang Mai, like, I want to meet entrepreneurs. I want to get to like know people. I want friends. I'm trying to get in the mix. I'm going to events like, Nomad Coffee Club every week. I'm like, let's exchange numbers. Let's hang. Let's talk entrepreneurship. And I feel like you have these sorts of times in your life when you want to like connect, and then other times when you want to build. You can consider it like cultivating and like farming and hunting, however you want to phrase it, a bunch of different metaphors there. But I feel like I kind of know what I got to do. I just got to execute on it. I just need time. I just need more time just to like execute on the vision, building my commercial fiction empire. And so that's why I have all this, this fancy setup, is like shooting content to build out the content for it. And, writing these novellas. I'm building AI systems to help me kind of produce some things faster. And what I realized was that, especially with Lena, is that I had built this life I thought I would build a life that was ideal for us and for her, but I realized it was ideal for me. And so in my mind, I was kind of wrestling with that. I was like, oh man, I wonder why is she so upset? And, I'm not saying that Claude can be your therapist, but if we haven't talked about Claude Code, we got to talk about that another time. If you aren't using Claude Code, use it as a game changer. Oh my God, what are you doing? Stop this podcast, go learn Claude Code. That's my pitch. I'll probably pitch it every podcast from now on until you actually do it. But okay, I wanted to pop in here and tell you a quick story. I normally don't do this, but I forgot. As soon as I finished recording, I was like, you know what? There was a story. I was checking my notes because I'm using my phone to record the audio, that I was like, there was a story that I wanted to tell you. And I didn't get a chance to because I got so wrapped up in the therapy stuff. But it happened this last week. And it was while we were kind of in the midst of this thing. I was supposed to use this segue, even though I seem completely off the rails and free flowing, I guess, in these pods. I do actually put some thought into it, surprisingly, for like, oh, how can I transition to different topics? And so I was supposed to transition from the therapy topic into this topic, which did not happen. So that's what I'm doing now, in a very abrupt way, where I'm not just cutting into the footage, but now I'm telling you about it explicitly. So there's nothing quite like a joke that's as good as when you have to explain it to someone. So here's the deal. We have the rough week. We go to the therapy stuff. And the night before therapy, like I told you, or maybe we haven't gotten there yet in the pod, but we talked about having a better partner, for having a better match. We talked about where we are in life, and that there are probably better matches for each other. But we're like, you know what? We're this far in. We love each other very much. Let's really give this a fair shot. And so we go to therapy. It's great. The next day, I wanted to talk to Lena about it. So I want to talk to her about the therapy. Like, I was like, hey, so what'd you think? And we kind of decompressed a little bit about it. And we kind of fall back into a tough pattern, even in that conversation. And it gets my gears turning. Again, I come back to this, like, there's probably somebody better for us out there, each of us. There's probably somebody better for Lena, who is more flexible, who is more free-flowing, who you don't have to schedule everything with, you don't have to be like, oh man, I really want to do this on Saturday and, pitch them on, Wednesday or Thursday. And they have to like think about it and be like, okay, yeah, let's do it. You can just be like, let's go tonight. And they're flexible and they're more lively. They're alive. They want to do stuff with it. For me, there's probably somebody who is maybe a little bit more rigid or maybe more independent. So we kind of come to terms with that. And I start thinking about it and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, maybe we should break up. I'm like, because I'm not sure if I want a lifetime of this tension because I know that it's hard and I'm like, I know that Lena loves me more than anything and that like maybe for her, like it kills me that knowing that there's a better match for her. So I start thinking about this more and more. I go for a walk. We have that conversation that night. I can't sleep at all then that night because in my mind I'm like, damn, we should probably break up. I'm like, I should probably break up with her tomorrow. I was like, fuck. And so I'm like tossing and turning all night. I'm already thinking about my next steps. I'm like, maybe go to Panama City, maybe go to Bogota because there's no way I'm staying here. After I get my heart broken, I'm like, even if you're the one breaking up, it's still, it destroys you. And so I'm like, I can't stay in Medellin. So I'm thinking like, okay, Panama City. I'm like, you know what? Now that I got this nice little remote job cooking, I'm like, maybe I could go back to Portugal. I'm like, I always love Barcelona. Let's do Spain. Thinking, cooking. And then I wake up the next morning. I pop out of the apartment early. I'm like, I need to go for a walk. I didn't even work out that morning. I normally like do my rehab in the park, my old man shit. I'm like, I just need to walk and think about this. Again, I'm kind of chatting with Claude, chopping it up, and I'm like, damn, I gotta do it. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, this afternoon we'll go for a walk and I'll have the conversation with her and I'm open to it, but it's probably like, the breakup conversation of saying, hey, when we had that blow up, like a part of me kind of, broke a little bit inside. I haven't been the same. There's somebody better for you. And that's the hardest part was that I felt like there was like, I know there's somebody better for her and I don't want to like take that spot. And because I know how hard, this friction is going to be, it's going to be a friction point for a long time. And I don't realize, but in the park, like the emotions kind of catch up and I start crying. And these are like, I'm out in the park every morning. I'm like walking around. There's like little old ladies now I say hi to, like at least 3 groups of little old ladies that walk together in the morning. I say hi to. There's like the guys with their dogs. There's like the security guards. I'm homies now. They're like dapping it up. And I'm like in the park and I start losing it. I'm like, fuck. And so I go and I like find this little like bench and I just start crying. I'm just like, I'm like, I'm just gonna feel my feelings and just cry. I'm like, cool. I start crying a little bit and then I start like crying for real. And this little homeless lady comes up to me. She has a little, like her shopping bag with all her shit. And she's like, ¿Por qué estás triste? She's like, why are you sad? She's like, don't be sad. She's like a little homeless lady trying to lecture me. I'm like, no. I've got like my head in my hands. I'm just like crying. I'm leaking a little bit. It's not like crazy sobs, but I'm more than just like the single tear, when I watch a good Pixar movie. And so she's trying to like lecture me on life. I'm like, lady, I love the gems. I'm here for the spirit. I'm like, not right now. I just get up, I leave. I go to another part of the park. I can't pull it together. I'm like, Keel, what, dude, like you're in a public setting. Like, dude, let's chill. I go to the bathroom. I'm like, I've got snot all over my sleeves because I'm wiping my nose. I go in the bathroom. They're out of paper, of course. I look like I'm a drug addict. Like my eyes are rimmed red. I pull my hat down super tight. I'm like, nobody see me. I feel like I'm like Justin Timberlake. I'm like, nobody see me. I wish I had like big ass sunglasses. I'm like, nobody look at me out here. And I've got my like hood up so nobody see me. I come back, my like, we call them like a portero or like a portera, like the person like who's like your doorman, doorwoman is here. She's always super sweet. She's like, hi, Kim. I was like, hi, Sandra. I'm like, I come in. I'm like, don't look at me. I'm like, hey, Sandra. I'm like, don't look at me. Go to the elevator to try to like make it up in my apartment. And so I get up here and the plan is like, have a good day. Don't ambush her right at once. Like Lena was at the gym. I was like, she's going to come back. She's going to have breakfast. I was like, just put on a game face. You haven't like time this afternoon. She'll be fed. She hasn't eaten breakfast yet. Like you'll have the conversation this afternoon. But I can't stop crying. Like for the life of me, I can't stop. I like try to pull it together for a second. I lose it again. And at this point, I'm like, fine. I'm like, if you just want to cry, I'm like, then let's just put on some sad music. There's this like ambient chill playlist that I love for Spotify when I get my feelings. And I'm like, let's just feel our feelings and just cry it out. Like we'll cry maybe 5-10 minutes. We'll cry it out. Then we'll come home. I'll be good. I'll have a chance to like recoup, regroup myself. I can't stop. crying. And at this point, I'm thinking about like, oh, like I'm like thinking about all the things I love about her. I'm like, man, there's like 99% right except for this 1%. And it's like all the memories and holding her and like what what you're looking up at me as we're like cuddling and like the sunlight comes. It feels like it's some cinematic shit right before somebody dies and like a good drama, like a good film. It's like it's all in like sepia tone. I'm like, what is going on? And it's like just like amazing memories together. And I'm thinking about all these things that I love about her and how I'm like, man, I can't even give all this up and blah blah. And I'm just sitting on my floor of my bedroom, just like in my feelings, crying, like like bad crying. And it gets so bad that I have to go get a roll of toilet paper because the paper towels I have in my room ran out. So I'm like sitting there on the floor and I thought I was gonna have more time to get it. I must have cried for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I just lose track of time. I have my eyes closed. I'm just head in my hands. I'm just crying. I'm just like thinking about memories and like all these things that I love about my little Colombian wifey. And then she comes in the room. I didn't even feel her come home. She comes in the room. She immediately jumps on the floor. I think she thinks like my parents died. She's like, oh, she's like, amor, like, ¿qué pasó? Like what? Like she's super concerned. And I had this speech that I was going to tell her that afternoon, kind of like it's not you, it's me speech. I'd kind of had, loose structure for it. I had kind of like the beats I wanted to hit. I can't talk. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. She thinks my parents died probably. So I just tell her the truth. I'm like, I feel like part of me kind of broke on Saturday. Last Saturday, I feel like there's somebody better for you. And I'm like, I'm then discomposed. I'm like, and I'm like, just losing it. And she just holds me and I tell her this. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm like, I think there's something. And I kind of like fumble my way, like sobbing through this little breakup speech with her. And she's like, hey, she's like, there probably is somebody who's going to do these things better. But she's like, but I love you. She was like, there's somebody who's going to do this better, but this is why I love you. And she kind of pitched me on why she loved me and why it was worth it. And in my mind, I'm like, that says a lot because I think I had a friend, you know who you are, who dropped some gems on me on this. It's like that. I think it's like a really easy, not really easy, maybe, but like I feel like that's like the easy way out sometimes is that way of thinking. And she really just kind of checked me on that thinking to be like, hey, yes, there are guys that will be way better for me doing these things, but there's these other things I really love about you. And I thought, and obviously I was thinking about that with Lena all morning of being like, how nice it would be just to not have that friction, but that there's so much that I love about Lena that is going to be really hard to find another partner. And the gem that my friend dropped on me is like the power of commitment and how if you are down to just like thug it out with somebody and just like get in the mud and fucking roll around, then like it solves most things and that there will always be somebody better, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be the person that you're with. That said, if you're in something and it's abusive and it's a terrible match, go find somebody else 100%. But the fact this was like 99, maybe like 98%, 98 degrees, shout out the 90s music. I was like, you know what? I was like, that's a great point. And I was like, let's thug it out. And so it was just like a really beautiful moment. And I just wanted to share that with you because I'm like pretty sure, I know I'm like throwing out percentages like 99%. I'm like not a math guy. I'm like, I think I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't say 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's like the hardest I've ever cried. Ever since like when you're a kid and you're like fall and scrape the shit out of your body and it like physically hurts, but like the pain in my body, I felt like I was already kind of like mourning the relationship before I even left it. And it was, I think, really telling that you sometimes don't, just to have a little taste of what life is like without that person, that I was like, man, I really love this woman. And it felt, I haven't felt that deeply into my heart, I think, in like a painful way in like a very long time. And it was intense. It was intense. I'm like a waterworks over here. If like especially like I said, with a good Pixar film, with a good drama, 100% I'm losing it. But like I can keep it contained maybe a tier 2. But like the like really like ugly crying that I haven't had in a long time, and I was just like letting it hang out. I was like, nobody's at home. I'm just gonna like go for it. Just feel all my feelings. And man, it was crazy. It was crazy. And she just held me. We kind of cried together. She like walked me through some breathing exercise, and I was like, this is what I needed. I think I just needed that the reminder you know, that like, hey, there's enough here worth fighting for. And I think that was really powerful, because you get into these moments of tension and friction with somebody, and I think it's easy to lose track of those and be like, dude, it'd be so easy if we just like didn't have these things. Let's just find somebody else, because it's just too hard to fucking try to work through this. And to be like, you know what, like, there's you're gonna have friction with everybody, but I think it's like figuring out what those points are and if it's worth it. And that, for us, to be honest, in this moment, I think is like a current negotiation, to be like, that's something that, like, depending on how things shake out, I'm curious how much I can tell you about or not, but like, of being like, this is something that it's not like an ultimatum, but like kind of to be like, there's a way that I think, that like we find a way to navigate this, or we realize that this kind of is like our separation point. But at least it was like it was just like a beautiful moment that I felt so raw the rest of that day. Like, I felt like a big old chicken breast just like walking around. I was so crudo, like, as they say, I was just so raw. I felt like I was just like, my whole body was like, I felt like I was almost like on psychedelics. I was just like the world, like everything felt brighter. Like I could feel things on my skin, like my whole heart. Like I was just so sensitive about things. It was crazy. I haven't had like a real like opening like that for a long time. I just wanted to share that story of like a moment of vulnerability, but also it was like truly a beautiful, probably one of the like hardest, but like most beautiful moments of my life. So with that, enough with this podcast ad read. Drop, Kia, 15% off. Now back to the episode. What had happened was, I realized that I've built this life that was perfect for Kia. And I didn't realize this though until talking to Claude. I was like, hey Claude, I was like, this is kind of what she's telling me. Here's some feedback. I'm trying to figure it out. I was like, here's what I'm thinking. Like, help me, square the circle. And what it told me was, and I thought this was a gem, where it pushed back on me a little bit. And I think that's why I like about this new version of AI is it's not just like, it doesn't just like gas you up the whole time. We're like, oh dude, you're so right. It's like, yo, F that. Like, it's like, dude, like, calm down. I don't need a hype man. Like, I need someone to like talk some real shit to me. And so with Claude, it was really helpful. It was like, Aki, it was like, it sounds to me like you've given her an ideal life for you. But it was like, think about the reverse. Because to me, I'm trying to give her as much space as possible so she can be independent and build her own thing, and like trying to like support her financially and support her in this way so that she can like have all the independence that she needs to like build her dream. And it was like the reverse of this is, it's like that's what you want. So that's what you gave her, where it's like, think about, it's like what the flip side of this would be like, y'all would probably be in Cucuta, which is like the city that she's from, on like the border of Venezuela. People like, you'd probably be living with her parents in Cucuta, and she would be like, man, you never have to worry about being alone or anything, because we always have people, and that way you never feel lonely, because there's always people around, always in your space, and people in your bed and sleeping together, and look at all this food. And I was like, yeah, that does sound like a nightmare. Like, I obviously love spending time with her family, love being out there, but that same feeling of suffocation of like being around too many people all the time, then I think is the exact inverse for me. I'm like, I love the independence of being around like no one all the time, where I'm like, it's just Kia, my thoughts, my the art, and if we do this podcast, if you know me, if you're watching this, we're probably homies, like we're probably on WhatsApp or chatting or whatever, like that to me is like enough social stimulus that I don't have to be like in the mix as much as I used to be. And it was just such an interesting contrast, where I was like, yeah, that probably is like, for Lena, that would probably feel like that would be the life that if I could give her that, she'd be stoked. Is it's like much more close to her home and her family and friends, and like home cooked meals all the time, just Latina shit, whereas like, I love that for like a week or two, but then I got to just be like on my own again, just because I like, I need that time to recharge. I'm an introverted guy. And so, that reframe for me was really helpful. And thinking about like a lot of the things that I'm like, why don't you love this? Is like, I just have to inverse it, and it like kind of helps me understand. And I think that that's been helpful. Another thing that was really interesting was we had our first couples counseling session last week, and, I know that I'm pretty rigid, and I've always chalked it up as just being like very ambitious and very disciplined. I think that there are other guys that I look up to a lot who probably have some of these same slightly neurotic characteristics, like an Arthur Brooks, like Chris Williamson, like a Tim Ferriss, Huberman, these guys that are like very dialed in, that I respect that, because I feel the same way. It's like up at the same time, you're getting after it. And like, there's something so like, I don't want to say it's joy, but something like so fulfilling about making progress on these really big goals, like working towards the dream to me is so fulfilling. Like I'm an artist at heart. It's like being in my art. It's like working on a story, or before it was the music, or maybe it's somebody's movies. It's like being in the art, and like that's why everything for me is fucking like standardized. It's like I eat the same thing, I wear the same things, blah blah blah. Because I like to just like put as much of my mental energy. I don't have hair. I don't like to even think about having hair because I just want to think about stories and the other shit that I'd rather spend my time thinking about. Which now sounds super extreme, but like I said, I'm kind of extreme, dude. So it's like that. I don't know why I am that way. I just know that's the way that I've been operating for a long time. And my brother checked me on this when I called him last week. He's like, hey, you've been doing that for like a decade. Like since doing my nomad shit, I've basically been living solo. Like I've been doing my solo thing. You kind of just get into this life that you really love and kind of works for you, whatever that is. That can be hard to sometimes like marry that lifestyle thing with somebody else. Lena and I were like super cool. We didn't really have friction until we started living together. And it was around this stuff. She's like, oh, want to go to the beach? Why don't you want to go to the beach? It's like, I want to go out and have you come out and meet my friends. Why don't you want to go out? Like, this is kind of all like perpetual things. Some couples it's finance, some it's religion. For us, it's like this like social element of like wanting me to go do more stuff and me wanting to like focus more on like building my little empire. I think part of it too is as we were dialing it in, is that we both feel a lot of pressure because we both love each other. Like we're both like, you're my person, but we both realized we want to have kids, but we realized that like the time is ticking. And so I think we were talking about, we feel that pressure, but again, in kind of like inverse ways. She feels like there's a time pressure. This is like some of my last time to not be a mom. Like I want to like YOLO this shit. Like let's go have an adventure. Let's go out. Like I want to feel alive. I want to feel vibrant. And then for me, I'm thinking like, this is my last year before I'm a parent. Like I know I'm not gonna have time to like build my dream. So like let's sacrifice more to like spend more time building, because I realized like this is my time to like build the foundation, because I'm not gonna have that same thing. So it's like we feel the same. Again, there's this interesting sort of like push and pull, yin yang inverse thing going on, where it's like the same pressure, but like opposite ends of how it manifests. And that I think is like part of what causes this. But anyways, where I'm getting to, rather than just rambling to you about my relationship, is that we went to a couples counselor and we found a lady that spoke both Spanish and English. And one thing that she presented to me when we were like, we both presented our side of the story. And, what was actually really helpful was probably even more than the couples counselor was like the night before we went on a walk, and I asked her, I was like, hey, what do you want to talk to like about in therapy tomorrow? And like that even had us like have a really powerful conversation about like that there are probably better matches for us out there. But, we were like, but, let's continue to give this a shot, etc. We go to the couples counselor, and she, I Mr. Optimized everything. So I asked her, I was like, hey, could you give us some homework? Like, I promise I'm not the guy in class who's like, teach her out more homework, but like now I am, unfortunately, where I was like, hey, can we have some homework? Like, give us some tools or some things we can work on between this and our next session. And during the session, she's like, yeah, I think you might be like neurodivergent. And I was like, interesting. I'd never thought about that before. And so that's something I've kind of been exploring. So I asked her for homework. She's like, how about you just like, she obviously didn't have anything, but she's like, how about you just like check out the neurodivergent thing? She's like, just spend some time with that. That's a big ask. Like that's enough homework. I was like, I'm trying to get an A. Okay. I'm like, how do I get an A+ in therapy? Let me know, because I need to do the homework so I can A+ this shit. I need to do better than Lena. I need to do as good. I'm like, is there like a leaderboard for this? Like maybe we can put up like who's doing the best in therapy this week, and maybe I can try to like get at the top of that. Tell me how I could get on top of that. No. Okay. So that striver, as Arthur Brooks would call it, like this striver kind of like overachiever mentality that I think the neurodivergent thing, I sat with it. I talked to Claude. I had some research. I'm not sure if that totally fits. I think I'm maybe just like neurotic as fuck, but I'm not sure if that is like the same as being neurodivergent. Maybe it is, but I feel like for me, it boils down to more like this piece of, this like wired super deep in me. And I think this is like the hardest part for me, is to try to like take that up, like really like tease out like the hardest part, but this is it makes me so happy. Like so many of these things that I like to do are because they do bring me, like I said, like pure joy. Like these are the things that I love doing them. So it's hard to not want to do them. But you could probably say the same thing to like a heroin addict, And so I think about this insofar as I think the hard part about having this addiction to, I can't even say success, because I'm sitting in like a back room. It's not, I wouldn't say I'm successful, it was funny, even I was talking, like, I was like, what career? Like, I was trying to be a rapper, that failed. Like, I tried to be a filmmaker. I'm like, I was, I just lost my job. I was like, I'm not sure, like, why I'm addicted to success. Maybe I'm addicted to it because I've never had it. But I think the problem is I did have it actually, like, early on. And I've been trying to, like, chase that feeling for a long time. But what I'm getting at is, like, this sort of, like, I think there is this sort of, like, striver archetype of you get unfortunately, I think most people that have it are probably much more successful than I am, so they have a little bit more like reason to do it. Where I'm like, you just got to trust me. I'm like, I'm gonna be successful someday. You just got to trust me. Compared to like people, I think it's a lot easier to be like, I'm the CEO of this company and we're making zillions of dollars, but I'm really struggling to spend time with my family. And I'm like, I kind of get it, because it's like you got all these like markers of success. Where me, I'm just like, it's a sort of like fairy dust. I'm like, look at all these markers of success. I'm like, but I still feel like I'm kind of like in that same group. And I think because, if you dial it back, psychology shit a lot of times like comes back to childhood of my parents were fantastic. And so I don't think it was about, I think a lot of times if you have like really high achieving, successful parents, then you're kind of validated by what you do. And like they're like, whether it's A's, whether it's like being the first chair in the orchestra, etc. But my pops was like a children's, like he was like a traveling storyteller living out the back of a van. It was like when we were little, like he was intentionally keeping us like below 10 grand a year, so that way we didn't have to pay taxes. And so like, it's not like there was like this like financial, like we had to achieve. My mom was always like, is that the best you can do? Like, then that's great. Then, it was never like we were rewarded for that, because it wasn't like they put it like an onus on that. Like they wanted us to do well, but it was never like you have to like be a doctor. Like that was never part of it. But I think for me, it was more like it was like showing up to perform. I think it can come from kind of different angles. I think sometimes it's like you're like like the parental validation and reward. I think for me, it came more from like peers, not in terms of like they'd be like, oh, kid, great, you got an A or anything like that. I was never super bright in school, but it was like, I got attention from the shit that I did. And that felt really good, because I wasn't just like the guy who was like the ladies man or anything like that. And I was in high school, like that's what you want more than anything, is just to be like recognized by ladies and to be cool, you know what I mean? And I never quite had that. It was from the way that sort of manifested was like in like sports, I was always kind of small. But like whether it's trying to be funny or like the music shit was one for me. There's a big one. It was like, okay, like I can rap. Like, okay, so I'm not super cool, but like, yo, I got these bars over here. Like, check this shit out. I got a 16 for you. Or I wrote you a poem, like these sorts of things that I could always kind of get validation for what I did. And I think that recognition from life was like, oh, you do cool shit and there's a cool reward on the other side of it, was just like ingrained at a young age. And then I just followed that through. In high school, there was this thing that was called Key Club, and it was like this huge service-led like organization for kids. And I remember going out, and they would have these big conventions and like shitload of kids there. And I was like, it was like a game I could win. And I was like, this is a game I could win. I remember being a freshman, going to the convention, seeing the president speak. It was the president of the entire organization, and he was a senior, of course. And I was like, I could do that shit, because it's like speaking on stage, and like it was like almost like politics kind of. It was like kids. It was like different than like Model UN or something, but it was still very like politics, like shaking hands, kissing babies, like getting votes and stuff like that. And I was like, the way that I can move, like I was like, I know how to get people to like me. I was like, I could do that. Like, and I was like, I could probably like win this game. And a lot of it came down to like manpower, kind of like you had to get votes and shit, but it was also kind of like service hours. It was kind of, there was a place where you could kind of like force your will onto there was kind of a correlation between like input and output. Like if you were like not good with people, it'd probably be hard to do, but if you had like some social like capabilities, if you put in like the man hours and like qualified for like the different positions, like then you could run and like could make it happen. And so I remember being a freshman and being like, I want to do that shit. I was like, I saw the dude on stage. It's like, you're like a little mini celebrity. And I was like, that's a game. I'm not being football captain. Like, I'm not winning debate club. Like, I was like, this is a game I can play and I think I can win. And I did. I then built it up over 4 years. And it was the first time I had like a big dream. I set my mind to it and I kind of like brute forced it and made it happen. Took a lot of work, but it was a cool, I think, lesson to be like, if you have these big dreams, sometimes that take like years to accomplish, But if you do, the payoff can be really big. And so then my senior year of high school, I'm like flying around to conventions every weekend. It's like I'm going out to like they have these little dances. They would have like a little dance. It would be like monitored by adults, but they'd have like, your high school dances. But I was going to those like every weekend. And I'm coming in with the clout of being like this like president. So I'm coming in as like a presidente. And I'm like, and the girls like rubbing up on me and shit. I'm like, this is fly. I'm giving speeches and shit. And so it's like, I think I then translated that. I was like, for me, I wasn't like, oh, this translates directly. Like, let me be a politician. I was like, let me be a rapper, because the whole time still, I'm like, the way that I'm giving speeches in this Key Club phase is like, I'm rapping them. Like, I'm like, how about I just do like, I always had like this little rap skill, even though they were so bad, but I had the hubris to like feel like they were kind of tight. So then I was like, I wasn't like, let me take these skills of like being a politician and like maybe like be a lawyer or something. I was like, let me try to be like Eminem or what. Somebody else like, let me be Jay-Z. That obviously didn't work out. So, but I think it was like these signs that came, and then going to university, I was like, I got rejected from everywhere except for Boston U. And then I really wanted to go to Brown. And so I was trying to flip that like BU like stepping stone into a Brown move, and Brown rejected me. So I was like, fuck it. I was able to then do like a transfer shit into Cornell. And so it's like, there's always this sort of like achievement thing. And I think I had some of that early enough that even with the rap shit, me and Dylan had opened for Mac Miller. And it was like, you get these like dopamine hits of like big things you set your mind to and you try to achieve them and you do. And then you're like, what's next? And I think I kind of got on that treadmill and have been like low key kind of addicted to that ever since, because there is something about like having a really big idea or a big goal and kind of like over years chipping away at it and kind of seeing yourself getting closer and getting better and skill acquisition, etc. But there's some things you just like can't brute force. And that's what I'm learning about this, is like, I do feel like, this is what I tell Lena, and it's so hard to explain it, but I think just like, because I had like the world's best mom, is she like always believed in me. And she was all like, I have this like, talking to Lena about it too, she's like, how did you feel like you could do that? And I just have like this delusional sense of self-belief that I think it's like a chicken or the egg thing, where it's like, if you feel like that, then you take more shots, and like the game really is just shooting shots, and it's like, just never stop shooting, and like eventually like you learn enough skills or get enough connects or whatever, and like some shit pops off. And I feel like it's like whether you believe you can, you can't, you're right. And I think so. It's like having this like kind of innate self-belief kind of like installed from my mom that like I could do it, that then I like did try and I did do it sometimes. And now it's like life is kind of like smacking me around a bit. I think like bringing me back down, like, okay, young man, like now I'm like the uncle. It's like, okay, now older man, like you got to chill out. You can't brute force everything. You only get so many more shots on deck. But I tell Lena that I still feel that like, this kind of like inevitability of it. And I think even like that is like the core operating belief is kind of like my OS. And then everything else, this is super nerdy, but like everything else is like built on top of that it's like, whether it's this or it's the next one or it's the next one, like some shit's going to pop and be like my mom made it. And what I'm realizing is like, maybe that moment never happens, but along that journey, like leveling up, understanding the skills, understanding the lessons and the losses and the mistakes that kind of come along with that is like, okay, maybe it never pops off in the way that you think it was. Like the rap shit is never going to happen, but maybe it manifests in like another way that I haven't even thought of yet. But for me, it's like, now, as long as I just continue to learn and like continue to shoot shots, like it's almost inevitable that some shit happens over enough, like a long enough timeline if you zoom out. And so at least that's the belief that I tell myself. And I think that's where part of this pressure has come in, has like, I've always kind of felt like I had like something to prove, something to give this world that was sometimes bigger than just like the little day job box that I'm put in. And I think that like, I think I let go a lot of that with the rapper stuff, because I had this chip on my shoulder with that for a long time. And I feel like it's manifested a little bit more in like the writing, but for the writing, it's not like I'm like, I got to be a famous author. I think it's more about like understanding what it's like. It's moved more towards like a freedom thing, like a financial freedom thing, like a time freedom thing has been really big. Thinking about kids, thinking about, my little Colombian wifey. I'm not sure if you heard that was my shoulder just popped. Speaking of old man shit. So my shoulder's like, dude, it's my turn. So I'll chill out on the life shit. My shoulder wants to talk. Let's talk about peptides. So speaking of getting older, I've like the career stuff is kind of I'm building out this like I'm calling my little commercial fiction empire of like working on a bunch of novels, novellas actually. They're like short fiction. Again, trying to like just experiment and learn as I go with this, but getting better at writing and writing fiction, storytelling, etc. And part of this part like growing older as well is like understanding this physical body that we have and how it's like if I want to perform at a high level, like intellectually, emotionally, like career wise, I gotta take care of my physical health, which I always have been super into. Like if you know me, I've always been into it, even though it's never manifested in like I've never been like as jacked as I want or anything. Always been, really mindful of my health, but it's been a crazy year. I've had this shoulder injury for like a year now. Haven't been able to box. You might even be telling that, but I'm small as fuck. I haven't lifted in like almost a year, which is nuts. I've been doing like a lot of rehab, but I haven't been like really hitting the gym like I used to, which I really miss, to be honest. And so I was like, fuck it. It's been a year. I've been doing my rehab. It's getting better, but it's like, it's slow. If you've done any rehab, it's kind of like these incremental, you'll like get a little bit better. And then you maybe try to increase the weight too much. Because, you still have to like, it's progressive over time. And then you come back down to sort of this like jagged sort of like road. I was like, fuck it. How can I speed this up without something that's like super crazy? And then I learned about peptides. And so I heard, especially Joe Rogan talk about this on a podcast with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It's called the Wolverine Stack. And it was basically it's TP 500 and BCP 157. BPC, I think it's called 157, something like that. This is basically the two peptides that kind of like compound and help each other. And so I was like, okay, that seems cool. But I was like, let me just start with the baby steps. I took one cycle of BPC 157. It was like the baby dose, like as small the doses I could for a month. And I didn't really feel too much of a change. And so I was like, okay, let me cycle off this for a month. Let me just like chill. And then I'm like, let me try some Wolverine shit. And that's this next one that I'm about to jump into. And so it's been cool. Just kind of like experimenting with my body. I've never been like super into biohacking, but the older I get, the more like shit starts to hurt. And like, I'm like, damn, like, I've always been like a super like natural guy. Like, let me not take anything other than like protein powder and creatine. But I'm like, let me sort of like maybe dive into some of this stuff that might be a little bit more experimental, a little bit more like on the edge, and at least like guinea pig with my shit and see if I can maybe fix it up. So I'll keep you posted. But yeah, I'm tired of it. Like, I'm really jonesing to get back into boxing. I have this like, I call it tame the crazy. Like, and then like I just need to like put this energy somewhere. And with the lifting and stuff too, like I definitely miss that. So I'm gonna try that. If you know about peptides, if you've tried it, how was it? You recommend it? Do you not recommend it? Am I gonna die in 60 days from like a small alien ripping out of my chest? Let me know. I think this has gone on long enough. 30 minutes, perfect. Finish on top, finish while we're hot. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, we've got about a month left here, and then we're gonna try to go see some friends, maybe some family, and yeah, just continue to dial in. I got an offer for another job, so I'm gonna be taking that. It's a creative strategy position. I'll tell you more about that next time. I have a couple little things kind of there, like work wise, but the biggest piece that I learned from getting laid off, I like saying getting fired, but from that to this one is that I think it depends on the company you're at, but I feel like a lot of times the biggest bump in pay that you can get is like from leaving the company. Excuse me. So like at the other joint, I was like crawling for this. I was trying really hard to reach a certain number. And I got maybe like a 10 grand bump over the year from like little, like, my 6 month check-in and the year check-in, et cetera. And then on this next one, I got like a 35, 40K bump just from switching jobs. And it's like, I think it's really hard once people have an idea of who you are and what you can do to like change their mind about you. And I think this is like one of the hardest parts about like things like family and friends is that sometimes you feel like you develop so much internally and you've changed and you go back home and you kind of fall into these same patterns or you're treated kind of like, childlike in some way that I think it's like, oh, you are this way and you are this way forever. And I think with jobs, it's the same way. I was like, okay, like note to self next time I want to take like a big leap. Like sometimes I think leaving and starting again fresh somewhere is just like, it's an easy way to sort of get more of at least closer to maybe what you feel like you're worth. So I'll keep you posted. Thanks again. Appreciate y'all figuring it out along the way. And thanks so much. Hasta luego. Peace.